The benchmark is expected to see a flat start, but stocks like Vodafone Idea, Graphite India, which had a good run yesterday, amongst many other counters, will be in focus in today's day of trade. Anything rate sensitive could also be quite a talking point in the market. Remember, banks and PSUs have already done well over the last few days. HDFC has been the star in the last few months on the large cap index, and that counter could continue to gain ahead of the policy action expected tomorrow. But it's IPO-bound IKS Health that is facing oppression and mismanagement allegations. Two shareholders of the Rekha Jhunjhunwala-backed company have filed a petition in NCLT. Charu joins us with more on that. Charu, the timing of this acquisition or claim by employees is not a good sign for a company that's eyeing an IPO.
Yes, so this IKS Health entity that is backed by Rekha Jhunjhunwala filed its DHRP around August 2024. It was August 12th. So in this sort of a crucial time, starting a new litigation is never a good idea. However, two shareholders who collectively hold about 0.0 of paid up capital, around 70,000 shares, have went ahead to the National Company Law Tribunal of Mumbai and sort of said that there are oppression and mismanagement issues with the company, and have also asked for some relief, saying that the AGMs conducted by them, particularly the 16th, 17th and 18th AGM, did not induce an invitation, and alleged that they were excluded deliberately from these AGMs, and hence these AGMs should be considered to be null and void, and their results should be considered to be null and void, and the results of these AGMs as an interim relief should not be implemented at all while the proceedings go on. But we must also understand that the legal team, which is backed by Shardul Amarchand and Mangaldas, team representing IKS Health, has also filed for a caveat before the NCLT. This means that they have also started, the court proceedings to stop the court from taking any decision or any developments from happening without giving them an opportunity to be heard.
All right, thank you so much for that, Charu Singh there with that exclusive story. All right, let's get to the trade of the day. Dharmesh Khan joining in, Head Equity Research, Chola Securities. Dharmesh, hi, great to speak with you. Let's start with your take on Bharat Forge, and let's get to something stock specific immediately. Bharat Forge, one of the stocks we're tracking this morning, raising funds. Their sales data from the US has come in positively. How are you looking at it?
Yeah, good morning, Davana. I mean, as far as data point from US is concerned, it's been quite volatile over the period of last 6 to 8 months. But overall, the things are shaping up well for Bharat Forge. It's not only the US class truck 8 order book, which is now getting a bit healthier, but also the defense portfolio of the Bharat Forge is also getting a bit thicker with the kind of rollouts from the government of India. I think overall, the company is in a fine shape, though the market volatility will keep the stock prices a bit volatile, and that's also because of the valuation, rich valuation which the company is enjoying. Overall, I think it's a clear buy. I mean, any declines in Bharat Forge should be bought into. And my thesis for buying a company like Bharat Forge is primarily on the basis of its exposure to US market, at the same time depreciating currency, and the third factor is the defense play in India is getting more stronger.
All right, stay with us. The other stock on our radar this morning is Vodafone. Will be selling its 3% stake in Indus Tower for over $300 million. Plus, there's a board meet announced for more fundraise as well. Rucha, both interesting developments, because the question with Vodafone always has been that where is this constant, steady flow of funds going to come from, and is it going to be enough to up their game?
You're right, Tamanna. So, Vodafone Idea is set to sell its entire remainder stake of around 3% in Indus Towers, and this will likely amount to a cash flow of about 2,840 crores based on Indus shares, the last closing price. Now, in addition to that, as you rightly mentioned, Vodafone Idea will also issue a new equity to raise new funds of about 2,000 crores. So, around 4,800 crore is the kind of inflow that the company will get, and out of this, it will pay off its $101 million, which amounts to about 855 crore rupees in debt obligations, and the remainder payment will be made to Indus Towers. Now remember that Vodafone Idea owes around 3,500 crore in cash to be paid to Indus Towers, and therefore Citi believes that this will aid for Indus to increase its dividend of rupees 7 per share due to the repayments from Vodafone Idea, and dividend again could be around 6% in FY26 and 27, and therefore this makes it a compelling investment position. Well, Citi has a buy rating on Indus Towers with a target price of 485, implying an upside of about 35%. Now remember that Indus is a subsidiary of Bharti Airtel after the Competition Commission of India approved Bharti Airtel to increase its stake beyond 50%. Lastly, talking about analyst recommendations, there is a bearish stance on Vodafone Idea with 13 sell calls and 4 buy calls. Indus Towers a largely bullish stance with buy calls of 12, sell calls of 6, and return potential of about 13%.
Thank you for that. So Vodafone, of course, on track, and that's, telecom is going to be one big space that we're looking at today. Dharmesh, any view on this development? I think we will expect an upside today, but longer term view on a Vodafone?
See, long-term view, you have to give a benefit of doubt, and we are going with the thesis that eventually things will shape up well for Vodafone Idea. It may be a long-term type, taken kind of a battle. It's not going to be over in a 1 year, 2 year time frame. My own sense is this company is going to survive. Though the government's equity share as a percentage as a holding has come down, but eventually they have to make it 30% plus. For the burden which is there on this company to go through. So as a benefit of doubt, we have been advising our clients to keep on holding or add at lower levels. And it's a wait and watch kind of a theory. It's just a gut feel kind of a play you could take.
But the interesting thing though, guys, that I found was in the assumption that Citi is made for Indus, right? That they get this money, they might give a higher dividend in the second half, but more importantly, the assumptions that Citi is made, right? And that makes Indus Tower a 6% dividend yield play. I mean, that's for the business line that Indus is in, the stock is corrected a little bit, 6% dividend yield is actually a pretty strong number. So may not be surprising if it actually has a bit of a bump up today.
Yeah, no, I think both of them will have, definitely, and both are widely owned stocks from retail perspective as well.
And Indus is up 92% this year. So
but off from the highs as well.
Off from the highs, good value for sure. And this, I think, was the only overhang that was on the counter, right? So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how both of them do. And even this report, I don't know, was it CLSA that's put out that report with a 35%... did I see that on one of the groups from research?
On which stock?
On Indus Towers?
Citi.
What was Citi?
They have opened a positive catalyst
with
watch
a
as well today.
35% upside. So yeah, multiple reasons why this one could be in check. But Dharmesh Kant as well joins in, Head Equity Research. Dharmesh, good morning. We've been discussing and debating Vodafone Idea and Indus Towers. We do believe that with Vodafone exiting its last 3% stake in Indus Towers, both those counters will do well. So, of course, we do agree that there is a clear view on that one. But also, just beyond that, Dharmesh, what are you making of a few more that we've seen on the QIP front? So, your word on Bharat Forge, what did you make of Wonderla's fantastic response to its QIP yesterday, and PG Electroplast today? These three counters, any of them that you would add to your portfolio fundamentally?
Yeah, good morning, Shabina. I think, see, they are takers of Indian equities, left, right, and center, no denying on that fact, and the money is flowing in fast, and that is what has kept the balance sheets of most of the companies in a pretty good shape. So, no dead butter out there. Out of the three, I think Bharat Forge is the one which we are looking forward to. Because of the diversified play it is sitting on, and all the plays are working fine for Bharat Forge as a company now. So US defense, US Class 8 trucks order is playing out well. Currency factor is playing out well for them. And thirdly, the Indian defense sector is doing fairly well. So I think the company is fairly placed, though valuation is a bit stretched, but that has been the case with Bharat Forge over a longer period of history. So it's a clear buy. Any decline should be bought into for Bharat Forge, and I think it's a robust play for next 1 year. The only headwind which can come into play is the commodity inflation which is there, but I think their pricing ability will get it through.
We'll take a very short break. We're right back in time for pre-open and more. Stay tuned. Will it be an exciting morning, and what should be your top trades? We're coming back with all of that.
All right, back with India Market Open right here on NDTV Profit. Remember, the pre-open session, it'll start in about 5 minutes from now. But the implied open may be suggesting a downtick, but you never know how the markets do. The last few days, the implied open has not been a true indicator of what the markets do on open itself. Forget what it does during the course of the day. But the last few days, post-results, are days of some very well-written brokerage notes. We've given you a sample of a couple thus far. Let's give you one more. JP Morgan has come out with a note on the Adani Group, and Agam Vakil joins in to talk about what are the key highlights of that particular research note. Agam, good morning again. Take it away again.
So overall, the note is positive, seems sanguine on all the bonds that are floated by the Adani Group. On a stable liquidity basis, well, they are saying that there are no problems here. In fact, liquidity seems to be manageable when it comes to the Adani Group. They talk about a handful of specifics as well. So when it comes to Adani Group's bonds, which have been volatile of late, now seem to have stabilized with the spreads widening to no more than about 100-200 basis points, and they also say that they prefer the short end bonds for now. Of course, they've also moved one of the company's bonds of 2026 to overweight, and they are also overweight on Adani SEZ bonds. They prefer the 2032 bonds out there in that case, and they have also in fact initiated an overweight on Adani SEZ bonds. These are the 2032s, and as far as the 2041 bonds are concerned, well, they remain neutral. All in all, the positive here is that for many of these companies and the many long tenured bonds here, they remain either overweight or neutral, more inclined to overweight, and they're suggesting that the liquidity is manageable. So overall, the sentiment continues to be positive, even in terms of the Adani Group debt at the moment.
Thank you for that, Agam. That's Adani Group stocks and JP Morgan's view on that. Dharmesh, you want to comment on that one? The counters have seen some very heavy activity in the last few days. In fact, it's been the top performing stocks despite the weakness that was seen in the early part of last week. Any view and anything that you like across the Adani pack, your favorite pick here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, such kind of a market activity in the Adani Group gives you opportunity to do your cherry picking, and there we think Adani Ports is a very nice business to catch up at lower levels, and the valuation comfort is also there. And the other company which I like in this entire group is Adani Power. So these are the two companies where there is a huge valuation comfort, and the business has been doing fairly well with nice cash flows coming into play. So such opportunity should be utilized to get into and acclimate Adani Ports and Adani Power.
They're definitely nice, Dharmesh, nice fundamentals and nice cash flow, but Adani Ports is what Dharmesh does like. We'll have to wait, I guess, in a technical view, but a quick check on how and what we're expecting. A whole lot of counters will be in focus this morning. Largely a few big IPOs. You've got the Vodafone Indus news, which will be important in terms of how those stocks react. And maybe even a move on Bharti on back of everything that's happening on Indus Towers. Remember, they own a significant stake there too. 38 points low on implied Nifty. Global Qs were positive. Crude was trading flat. The FIs have been buying into our markets, which of course is a sign of some positivity and hope for the bulls. But 24,500 is an important level that the markets will try to take out in today's day of trade. On the upside, on the downside, of course, it's 24,300 that will act as an important level of support. Well, you have a few brokerage reports as well. So on counters like Zomato, Nomura recently, in fact, yesterday had a call on Oberoi Realty. The stock was did hit a life high on back of that. Well, now I believe there's also Bernstein after yesterday's note on Zomato. It's Bernstein this morning that has come out the note on Zomato versus Swiggy, the eternal debate these days. Mahima is standing by with more on that. Mahima, is it Zomato or is it Swiggy for Bernstein, or is it both?
Well, it's Zomato for Bernstein as well, and they've rated it outperform with a target price of 335. So this poses a 20% upside from its yesterday's closing. Now, we've already seen that, in terms of operational metrics so far, in terms of YOY numbers, Zomato is still way ahead of Swiggy, but QOQ, that is sequentially, Swiggy is catching up. But there are some operational metrics as to which, the Bernstein notice pointed out. They've said that Zomato has a wider presence than Swiggy, and they have a deeper penetration as compared to Swiggy in terms of tier 2 cities. It is also said that Swiggy has higher frequency of users. So Swiggy is better in terms of this because it has one integrated app, which is why it has higher frequency of users. But in terms of quick commerce, they've said that Blinkit has 1.5 times higher monthly transaction users than Instamart. So clearly in the quick commerce space, we've already seen that YOY it has seen a 136% growth versus that of 57% growth in terms of gross order value for Swiggy. So Blinkit is right now 1.5% higher in terms of monthly transaction users than Instamart. In terms of gross order value per restaurant, for that Zomato is winning the game. And lastly, Swiggy has stickier customer base than Zomato, and this is because once again it has one integrated app versus that of 3 different apps for Zomato. So this is the overall view of how these two stack up against each other, and a very interesting note coming out from Bernstein.
Okay, so first pre-open rates are hitting. Zomato, all right, doing okay. Zomato, Swiggy actually is not in flavor. What's in flavor is Indus Tower. We were talking about it in some details earlier as well, and we will have a deeper view on the entire space at 9:30 a.m. So watch out for that. Indus Tower doing well in the first few minutes of trade, of pre-open trade. So is Vodafone. What else is popping? Adani Energy on the back of that JP Morgan note. We talked about it just a few minutes ago. IGL making a comeback, and City Gas distributors have had a tough time with, I would say, policy moves, but IGL not half bad. PVR Inox, we were talking about that CLSA note, which has been quite bullish on media, and we'll get our colleague Rucha to give you more details on that, but that's doing okay. Yeah, so those are some of the movers this morning that you see. So is M&M Finance. I'm just wondering what's happening to some of the stocks on our watch list. Let's look at a Bharat Forge and how Bharat Forge is behaving this morning. Let's pull up a Muthoot and see what's happening there. Transformer, rectifiers, some of the stocks that we've been tracking. Bharat Forge, we told you would be a positive. Muthoot Microfinance also up at this point, and so is transformers and rectifiers. So some of those counters doing fairly well. Apart from that, let's just get a quick view from Dharmesh on, what is the space that he's looking at next. Dharmesh, in terms of banks, are banks something that is on your radar right now? Would you be looking at banks more closely, and which ones ahead of the rate meet tomorrow or the rate decision that we will hear tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely the one. I mean, we have been looking at banks for last 2 months, and post the Q2 earnings update, public sector banks were a clear favorite after the earnings update was there. The prices have moved up, but still the valuation comfort is pretty high. So whether rate cut comes or it doesn't come, I don't think that will make much of a difference to the fate of public sector banks, given in the current macroeconomic scenario. So they are the clear buys. Apart from that, metal is another sector where we think action will begin soon. So there, Hindalco and Tata Steel looks pretty well. So these are the two sectors where the focus is high. And in the public sector banking space, the stocks which we have been recommending quite aggressively is Bank of India, Canara Bank, and Bank of Baroda. These are the three topics from the space. Relatively, we are a bit neutral on SBI.
SBI, but a couple of those counters look good to Dharmesh from a fundamental view on policy action. A quick check of pre-open is playing out. It should be a flat morning. Don't expect too much on either side of the benchmark. It could be a tight trading range in the range of 24,300 to 24,567 now on the index and pre-open trade. Not sure that's how it's going to play out. That's too much of a gap up on a morning such as this. But Qs are outside are positive. There is a report this morning on a rate cut, so maybe that could cheer the markets up to some extent. But it might just be better to wait and watch. Vodafone Idea and Indus become important stocks to track. Vodafone is up 8% in pre-open trade. Indus is up 4.5%. PVR ahead of a release is looking pretty solid in pre-open trade. Bharat Forge 3.5% on PVR Inox. Bharat Forge could be one to track on back of the QIP. PG Electroplast also on the QIP. Bondada Energy on back of an order win. So it's actually not looking too bad in early morning trade setup as we see it. Well, Zomato, if we can quickly pull that one up and see what it's getting up to. Remember, CLSA has said that they prefer Zomato to Swiggy. Counters like Brigade Enterprise will be lower on back of the commentary coming in from the management there. So I'm still looking good, 1.5% higher on the counter. Sitting rate sensitives largely could become a good trading opportunity or a trading idea intraday ahead of the policy action tomorrow is what the street is expecting.
All right, let's look at the big brokerage call on NDTV Profit. 9:05 is when we give you the top brokerage call of the morning, and we've picked CLSA on persistent systems. Why do they have an outperform, Harsh?
Well, not only do they have an outperform, they've hiked their target price substantially. So earlier target price 6,154, current target price 8,462. Reasons: first off, they believe that strong market positioning of Persistent should aid numbers going forward. They also feel that exposure for Persistent to faster growing segments, which is one, data analytics, second, Salesforce implementation practices, as well as product engineering. These three verticals should drive growth further. They believe that in terms of revenue, Persistent Systems is at a sweet spot, $1 to $2 billion in terms of revenue, and therefore growth can really come through on that kind of a base. They've increased their revenue estimates across their industry verticals. They've also increased margin assumptions due to various factors. Now, in terms of the EPS estimates, they're expecting FY 25 to 27 an EPS CAGR of 27%, which is quite strong. And they call Persistent their top pick within the IT space. They've hiked the multiple as well as the target price, a 41% upside from here.
Thanks for that, Harsh. That's the top brokerage call this morning. The stock is up 1.5%. But guess what? We have Aditya Agarwal now, Head of Research and Investments, joining in. Aditya, our viewers are very upset that we haven't had a technical call till 9 or 10 this morning. So very quickly, a call on the Nifty and Bank Nifty.
Apologies for that, Sarmina. I was running late.
You have to promise us you'll be on time next time. More
Of course,
importantly,
the full time I would be.
in public.
Aditya's got
Full time, sir, I promise
schooled
that.
by Savina.
He promises. Okay, go on. Call on Nifty, Bank Nifty, and your top trades.
So I still feel the upside is intact in the market, and as far as Nifty and the Bank Nifty is concerned, I'm quite constructive on both. Especially the Bank Nifty, I think can test levels of 53,800 to about 54,000 as well on the upside. And this rally is going to be fueled by the PSU banks, which have been participating big time. And a few of these private sector banks, like the Axis Bank and the HDFCs of the world, can also trigger that rally. So the uptrend is still intact. I still don't see any signs of maybe a consolidation or a minor pullback as well, as far as the Bank Nifty is concerned. On the Nifty, definitely, I think there can be a bit of a consolidation. But yes, having said that, 24,800 is something that I'm eyeing on the Nifty as well. But I have to bet on one index, it has to be the Bank Nifty.
Yeah, hi. Let's quickly get your picks, and now you can see what's been happening in the first few minutes of the pre-open session as well. What are you liking this morning?
So I've got a couple of buy recommendations. The first one is APL Apollo. This is something which is looking very interesting to me on the chart setup. At current levels, I would be a buyer in the stock for a target of 1750 with a stop loss at 1550 on the downside. The second is Cummins. We've seen this entire segment correct a bit, and now it's formed a base and it's inching higher. So it will follow maybe the route of the Siemens. So Cummins is a buy at current levels for a target of 3750 with a stop loss at 3430 on the downside.
Well, we also have Rucha who's standing by very quickly on media stocks. Rucha, what does CLSA have to say on media stocks?
Right, so basically it has come out with its review on second quarter, and that is when it talks about PVR, Inox and Zee. Well, talking about media as a whole, it says that media saw continuing soft advertisement environment, and this was led by the headwinds faced by the FMCG, because largely ad industry is led by FMCG sector. But it also says that India box office collections saw a strong bounce back of about 40%, largely led by Hindi movies. Therefore, moving on to stocks, talking about PVR, Inox, the brokerage house has a outperform rating over here with a target price of 2,450. Now, this implies a 53% upside over here. It says that PVR Inox re-release strategy is also successful, with about 6% of admissions coming in from the re-release in 2Q. But talking about Zee, it has an outperform rating, target price of 170 rupees. Upside a little less than PVR Inox at about 21%. It says that Zee valuations are cheap and is also therefore positioned to capitalize on the ad spend recovery. Alongside PVR, Inox will also benefit from content and occupancy improvement. But let's look at what an analyst on Bloomberg saying. Talking about PVR, Inox bullish stance over here is what we can see, with 16 buy calls, 4 hold and 2 sell calls, return potential of about 24.5%. But then we also look at Zee with 9 buy calls, 4 hold calls and 7 sell calls. So kind of a 50-50 stance over here in terms of bearish and bullish calls, but return potential positive 14% on Zee.
Okay, thanks a lot. Not too much of a reaction thereof, but Rucha, thanks for bringing us that piece. Now, I just want to see if Adani Energy is indeed reacting post the pre-open rates having settled as well. About 1% higher, because there's a newspaper report which says that the Adani Energy might be a preferred bidder for a high voltage DC transmission project, roughly 25,000 crores bid. Could be interesting to see what happens thereof. Wonder what Bharat Forge and PG Electroplast are up to, considering that both of them have a QIP. Depending on the relative demand, you might see the stocks moving up or down. For now, Bharat Forge about 1% higher. PG, 0.25%, so nothing too dramatic. It's the telcos which are actually doing really, really well in trade. We've discussed the telcos with on the fundamental side already with Dharmesh. But Aditya, very quickly, if Indus Towers starts off at 375, it seems to be the case. Would you be a buyer at those levels into Indus?
I don't mind, Neeraj. Actually, this is one stock which is still showing strength after a decent correction. Stock has bounced back. So for a target of maybe 420 to about 450 as well on the upside, I would buy the stock with a stop loss at 340 on the downside.
Aditya, just a few more stocks that are worth talking about this morning and could see trading activities, real estate and banks. Anything over there in the PSU banking space specifically that could make a long trade intraday? I know I'm making this slightly tough, but I think most traders will want to take profits or losses off the table today before we go into rate action tomorrow.
I think well, let's first talk about PSU banks, and within the PSU banks, I'm like I mentioned at the start of the show, I'm a little constructive on the PSU space. SBI is something which I think has a lot of catch up to do, and if somebody is looking at an intraday trade, maybe SBI is something one stock that I would bet on with a stop loss closer to about 854 on the downside, or maybe 850, a slightly deeper stop loss, and look for a target of 880 to about 890 on the upside. So this is one stock which I will still participate and still has room on the upside. As far as real estate is concerned, it's very selective bet there, Samira, and I think the only stock for me that stands out within that space is Oberoi Realty, and we've seen the stock actually come off quite a bit from the lows from 1950 odd levels to about 2164 at current levels. So I'll wait for the opening trade, how it is panning out Oberoi Realty. If I get the stock somewhere around 2120, 2140 types, then I would be a buyer in the stock with a stop loss just around 2100 on the downside and look for a target of 2250 on the upside.